got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been reading all the war, and I've been shutting down the stars. Yeah.
And welcome to this episode of Put That Coffee Down, the freight sales show for closers here on FreightWaves TV. My name is Kevin Hill. I'm your host as always, where we talk about freight sales. Whether you're a freight broker, carrier, anywhere in the supply chain, we give you the useful tips and tricks and really the attitude and the frame of mind to go out there and close more deals and earn more margin. Today, we're going to be talking about brokers and carriers and bringing those in, developing relationships that really make money for everybody. And we have a great guest for that. He has started these broker carrier summits, live in-person events in different parts of the U.S. The inaugural one was last month in Indianapolis, and that is Dan Lindsey. He's co-founder and vice president over at Linkage Logistics. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah. So we did a podcast, the audio-only podcast a few months ago. We were talking about the pandemic and kind of starting a brokerage in the pandemic, and now we're kind of out of that. And, really new, unique marketing kind of plays out there. I think the Broker Carrier Summit fits really nicely into that niche, that differentiation of marketing, and wanted to bring you on the show and talk to you about that, and really dive more in depth on the Broker Carrier Summit, kind of how it came about, why it came about, and the results.
Yeah, so this is something that, so back in 2020, if you remember from our conversation, I was out of the freight brokerage world for a year due to burnout, just become disillusioned with all the issues in transportation. And one of the things that really motivated me to get back into the industry was the ability to, one, kind of write my own ticket by starting my own company, as well as to have an impact on the larger conversation between brokers and carriers. Linkage was started as a brokerage not only to be the broker of choice for shippers, but also the broker of choice for carriers. The conversation, relationship, dynamic between brokers and carriers has been broken for a very long time. And so the summit is one of the ways that we are trying to work to fix that, to kind of bridge that gap by bringing both sides to the table and creating an environment that they can use to collaborate and form actual real partnerships and restore that element of trust that is needed between those two parties.
So let's talk about the Broker Carrier Summit and kind of the turnout there in April in Indianapolis, and who was invited or who was welcome to come out and join the event, and some of the topics and kind of the overall arching goal of going and attending that and coming out of it. What were some of the key takeaways as well?
Yeah, so the idea was born for the summit in late January. And so we put the idea together. It was me and a couple other individuals putting it together, launched it in mid-February. So we had about a month and a half to just cold market the first event. I think I sent out about 2 million cold emails over the course of a month and a half. Full-on cold calling experience. It was great. But we were really targeting those newer, smaller carriers that are just getting their feet in the door into the industry. Because a lot of those companies were started by guys who were told, hey, go into trucking, you'll make a lot of money. But were never really coached how. And their experience with brokers over the last couple of years has kind of been indicative of what the relationship between brokers and carriers has been overall. And so those smaller, newer carriers is who we were targeting. We're also targeting these newer, smaller brokerages and these independent broker agencies that have been started in the last 3 to 5 years, because a lot of the people who started those agencies came from these larger brokerage operations. And we've been having some of the same conversations around the dynamics of carrier relationships and the importance of partnership There's just not been a platform to actually enact anything like that.
There really isn't. It's a different world from a smaller brokerage to the large top 20, top 50 brokerages when it comes to resources and cloud and kind of carriers in the system, because a lot of times you have to build it from the scratch. And that poses real challenges. When I think about it, I think that the perfect analogy or the perfect scenario of the broker carrier relationship is that the brokers you're outsourced. If you're a carrier, right? The brokers are outsourced salespeople. It's your outsourced sales team. They're going to take a fair and honest cut of the action for going out, prospecting, getting those shippers, having those loads available, a diverse amount of loads available as well, right? So instead of you going out and contacting shippers or finding your own loads, the brokerages are there to facilitate that transaction, and that's the way it's supposed to work. It's not always perfect; it doesn't always work like that. And then when abuses take place, that's what sticks in people's heads, right?
Correct. Yeah. Just like everything else in life, the bad actors get all the good press. And so that's one of the things that, sorry, can I back up a little bit? And that's one of the benefits of an event like this, is that the bad actors aren't going to be the ones to show up, because one of the things we're doing is we're calling out those bad practices by name, not by company name, but just by practice. So, for instance, in Indianapolis, one of the big topics has been double brokering, and the dangers of double brokering. So the first event 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was myself, Robert Bain over at CDL 1000, Troy Wheaton from Leonard's Express. We had a couple other people participating in some breakout sessions as well. One of the big topics was the dangers of double brokering. That was supposed to be an hour-long, call it a panel conversation. It ended up absorbing another hour that we had set aside for a roundtable conversation because there were so many questions around it. And so being able to give carriers and smaller brokerages practical, applicable advice and guidance on how to be proactive in preventing your loads being double brokered or your trucks from, and from a carrier's perspective, really diving into the implications of what happens when your trucks are under a double brokered load. If you're a 5-truck operation and you have 2 trucks over the road that are being double brokered and you're not going to get paid on those loads, that's business killing for a lot of these companies. And so how to prevent that from their side as well.
Yeah, I mean, double brokering has always been a phenomenon around, but just how it's been over the last 2 or 3 years, and kind of the gear up and the organizations that are involved. Now it's almost like organized crime in a lot of ways. You have rings, and you have a lot of outside people coming in to double brokerage. It has become a huge problem in the industry, and from both the broker's perspective and that carrier's perspective, because they get a lot of that's double broker. They have no knowledge of that, and all of a sudden they don't get paid. They get a nice rate, have a couple trucks out of your 5 on a load, getting paid good money, and then all of a sudden you're going to get stiffed. And then you have to go out and try to collect. You don't know who the original broker is, so you go after the consignee or the shipper, and it ties up a lot of time that small fleets don't have to investigate fraud.
Right. And it really continues to erode away at the biggest element that has already been a big issue between brokers and carriers, and that's the fundamental aspect of trust. Brokers don't trust carriers as a rule, and carriers don't trust brokers as a rule. Again, because all the bad actors get all the good press, and unless you're really investing time into forming relationships, not just with a brokerage company or a carrier as a company, but with the individual on the other side of the phone, you're going to continue to be disillusioned that there's no one in this industry that's worth trusting. And so if we're going to move beyond the volatility of the markets in the last 3 years, I think restoring that foundation of trust between brokers and carriers is going to be absolutely essential.
It is. It is. So you mentioned that panel discussion. What were some of the other panel talks or sessions that you had at the Brokers Carrier Summit back in April last month?
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about was 10 rules for partnerships. These were just basic fundamental ideas as to how brokers and carriers can relate to each other. Basic concepts like tell the truth. It doesn't sound very, very difficult, but when you're on the phone, and if you're a broker, you're on the phone and you hear blown turbo, you're calling BS on that every time. Just how to be upfront with carriers, how to be upfront with brokers, the importance of reading all of your documents as a carrier. I know it takes time to read the broker-carrier agreement, but especially in the last few years, a lot of these bad acting brokers have slipped things in there that can increase your exposure as a carrier from a liability perspective. They can change your pay in these agreements. If you don't read the rate confirmations, I saw a rate confirmation 2 weeks ago that was 1 page with the load details and 2 pages of possible potential fines that the carrier could have, all the way from missed appointment time to the carrier didn't check in every day by 8 a.m., PODs not being received. And these carriers are forfeiting up to half of their rate on these potential line items. So reading all your documents, things like that. We also had a session, Troy Wheaton led the conversation around, if you're a carrier, what are some things you need to be looking out for if you are planning on starting up a brokerage or spinning off a brokerage arm to your business? How can you continue to have relationships with brokers on your asset side without you having a brokerage affect that? Talking a lot about transparency, a lot about division of your operations, making sure that one side doesn't know what the other side is doing, making sure those lines of demarcation are firmly laid.
Those are all great points. Another one that sticks out in my mind is getting rid of the one and done mentality. And I think that is the forming of the relationship for both the brokers and carriers. I think they want opportunities where they're working with a select, as a carrier, right? You're working with a select number of brokers. As a broker, you're working with a select number of carriers. That kind of protects you from double brokering anyway. And as well, I mean, having those deep relationships makes life easier for everybody. But I think there's just a lot of one and done opportunities. I think probably 80-90% of all carriers and every brokerage's database are one and done carriers, as they say, right? And I think developing those relationships makes it more of an outsourced partner for both parties, right? For the carrier, for the small fleet, it is your outsourced sales department, because you might be working with 5 or 6 different brokers as a real core component. And as a brokerage, you're working with, whatever that may be, on a single lane, or for a single customer, you might be working with 5 or 6 carriers. And then you can develop those relationships and have a lot of trust and credibility embedded. And it just makes your life easier, whether you're a carrier or a broker.
I remember when my days working in a larger brokerage, one of the most profitable, most beneficial, and most professionally satisfying relationships I had was with a carrier out of Joplin, Missouri. I moved a lot of freight out of Lyons, Kansas, Wichita area, and it was all regional, or primarily all regional. They took 75% of my loads, and we rarely had an issue. And when we did, everybody was informed before it became a problem. And so everybody wins, from the shipper all the way to the driver.
Yeah, and I think this is very consistent, because when I was a freight broker, it's the same thing. My key business, 75% of my gross margins each month came from a select number of shippers, right? That was from a select number of carriers that I put on those loads. And, it kept me off the load boards in a lot of ways, which you want to stay away from those public markets. Just because you don't know who you're interacting with. Sometimes you go there to fill a need here and there. But if you're posting and preying on every load, the bad things are going to happen. Just bad things are going to happen more than if you have that select number of carriers. The benefits of it really was peace of mind, right? The peace of mind that you had a consistent revenue stream coming in, and you didn't have to worry about negotiating with people that you just didn't know and who were out to a lot of times take advantage of you. You maybe trying to take advantage of them, and you're both desperate parties in a lot of ways. Whenever you're working with one and done carriers or new carriers, you just don't know the economics behind it. But yeah, I mean that's the grand scenario. If you're a freight broker, that's the situation you want to come into, where 80% of your revenues ran by 12 different carriers, right? And if you got 3 trucks, you want 80% of your freight ran by 3-4 freight brokerages.
Right. And one of the things that I really wish that I would have had during those years is an opportunity to actually meet my carriers. Freight brokers go out and see their customers on a regular basis. I never once got an opportunity to go out and see a carrier. And so that's one of the things that I'm really excited about is if you're a broker, you're a small broker, a mid-sized broker, and you want an opportunity to meet your carriers, and you both are able to come to something like the Broker Carrier Summit, you can actually put faces to names, start diving into a relationship with those carriers and with those brokers, and not only deepen your connection with them, but you could potentially become more profitable in that partnership as a result of having 2 days in Tampa on the beach, drinking margaritas, whatever it is, and really connecting on a personal level.
So Tampa, that's the next Broker Carrier Summit. We've gone from the inaugural edition to the second, is not second annual because it's twice in a year, but the second edition of the Broker Carrier Summit. As you said, it's down in Tampa in October. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, October 12th and 13th. We had 75 people attend the summit in Indy with only a month and a half of cold marketing to wrap that up. So we have a full 6 months to roll this out. We're expecting between 300 and 500 people to attend this one in Tampa.
Now, is there a cost to attend for the October event?
There is, yeah. We have early bird pricing going on right now at $680. We do have a promo code as well for the hotel that we're going to be rolling out here in the next week or so as well.
And if I wanted to learn more about the agenda, how that's fleshing out, I'm sure you have a website.
We do. We have a CVent link that we can send you to, and it has the agenda. The agenda is still being built because we have generated a lot of interest on not only brokers and carriers, but also technology partners. We have a safety and compliance expert that we're talking to. They want to speak. They want to contribute to this conversation as well. So we're still building the agenda out. We have 2 general sessions that we have currently scheduled and 4 breakout sessions that are going to be a round robin style. So I mean, I was at TIA 3 weeks ago. I mean, you were at TIA as well in April. There were so many sessions that I wanted to go to that I wasn't able to make because I was in one breakout session. What we're going to do with this is we're going to have a round robin style where we're only going to have 4 breakout sessions total. And we're going to rotate the entire attendee list through those 4 breakout sessions. The only differentiating experience that anyone is going to have are going to be through these, what we're going to call fireside chats, where we're going to bring in these subject matter experts. We have somebody who's going to talk about government contracting and how to win more government bids. We're going to have a safety and compliance roundtable. We're going to have a digital freight matching roundtable. Where we're going to have between 20 and 50 people attend these different fireside chat conversations and really drill down deeply into a topic. But I'm really excited about the format that we're rolling out.
So you're putting on conferences now, something I know something about myself. I learned it as well. How is that compared to slinging freight?
Well, it's a great that's a great question. One of the things that we're talking to our sponsors about, because I was talking about this a lot over the last few weeks with a number of different companies. Full transparency, I am a freight broker. I am not an event planner. And so we're figuring it out. It's ready, fire, aim type of mentality kind of right now. I'm not sure if I should say that. Maybe edit that out. But
No, it's true, right? I mean, it's a different world than brokering freight, and event planning is its own beast. Just as difficult, if not more difficult in some ways, but it's a different mentality. It is fun. At the end of the day, I assume you're having fun with it. You're doing another one, so you must. But being able to craft content that serves the market, so that people are interested in coming to, whether it's Indianapolis or Tampa or anywhere else in the country, it's a cool thing to do.
absolutely, and I've told a number of people this over the last 2 weeks. The event that we held in Indy was by far the most professionally satisfying thing I've ever done in my career. We didn't know what to expect at the beginning. In fact, I went around the room and I asked people, "Where are you from? What's your name? And why are you here?" The first guy, truck driver named Wayne. My name is Wayne. I'm here because I hate brokers and I want to learn more. Which put me on edge for the first 10 minutes or so. But at the end of the day, after we had gotten a chance to really unpack a number of topics and talk, and we met over lunch, or he met with Troy Wheaton over lunch, was talking with him. We were having a good time. He and Troy were having beers at the bar afterwards, and he said, "You know what? This was a great event. I don't hate brokers. When can I come back?"
And that's the perfect reason. It puts you on edge a little bit, but that's the perfect reason. That's the reason that you want people to show up, is that they don't understand the other side. And you are the gateway to bridging that knowledge base to where, the old saying, you don't know anybody until you walk a mile in their shoes. And that's one way of doing that, is coming up and having these conversations, these panel conversations, these networking events to bring everybody together to form those better business alliances.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, Dan, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It's always a pleasure having you on Put That Coffee Down. And let's plug the website again to go to learn more about the event coming up in October.
Yeah, so like I said, we have a C-Event webpage we can go to, and the best way to go through, probably the best way to access our content, is to do so through LinkedIn. So the Broker Carrier Summit has its own LinkedIn site, where has its own LinkedIn page where you can go and learn kind of about what we're doing. On the website tab of the LinkedIn page is the link to the event itself. And you can see the agenda, you can see our speaker list. Again, we're still building all of that out, but you can register from the website through our LinkedIn page.
Well, Dan, thanks again for coming on, and good luck to you. And again, LinkedIn, great way to reach out to Broker Carrier Summit or to Dan Lindsey himself.
Thank you for having me, Kevin. Appreciate it.
That's Dan Lindsey, co-founder and vice president over at Linkage Logistics, talking about the Broker Carrier Summit. The first one was in April. The next one's coming up in October in Tampa. And thanks for watching this episode. We'll see you next week here on FreightWaves TV.
I got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been reading all the war, and I've been shutting down the stars. Yeah, cause when